What is this place, in Mini Jonestown?
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 CSI episodes that mirror true events.
We only want to understand what's going on.
You want to understand? Let me show you.
For this list, we're looking at the most notable installments of this groundbreaking forensic show that bear eerie resemblances to real-life crimes. A spoiler alert is necessary as we will be delving into plot details for the episodes. Are you a true crime buff? Which of these cases were you already familiar with? Let us know in the comments. Number 10. Meat Market, the Brooklyn Bone Snatcher. CSI's love for grotesque imagery and top-notch forensic analysis come together nicely on this Season 7 episode, in which the team investigates an arson-related killing.
It's 10 more for falsifying an ID, 15 for grave robbing, arson. That's another 10.
They discover that the victim had his bones replaced with non-human materials. If these details ring a bell, that's because they're similar to the infamous crimes of Michael Mastromarino.
Science and greed make a lethal combination.
Dubbed the Brooklyn Bone Snatcher, he headed the trade of illegally obtained human tissues. He was set to spend decades in prison, but passed away after a couple of years, ironically, from bone cancer.
That's mortuary humor.
Sure, it never gets old.
Number 9. $35,000 or best offer, the Universal CityWalk tragedy. This roller coaster of an episode tells the story of a couple whose lives come to an unfortunate end on the night of their anniversary. Their missing car is later found in another location, with a third victim inside.
Seatbelt's unbuckled. That's why she fell out.
Yeah, so?
Well, she's in the driver's seat. Was she driving, or could she have been placed in here?
Maybe she's like 28% of Americans. She doesn't buckle up.
The CSI team is puzzled at first, but later discovered that the main witness to the crime was a hired killer with a personal connection to one of the victims who went rogue.
Jessica took the car.
You hid in plain sight, offering aid to the victim.
The case resembles the 1995 Universal CityWalk tragedy, in which Paul Carassi orchestrated the deaths of his mother and ex-girlfriend. Carassi, whose apparent motives were to get custody of his child while also collecting the life insurance payout, was found guilty and set to receive capital punishment.
To the world, they look like the perfect couple.
You know what they say about looks?
They can be deceiving.
They can kill.
Number 8. Double Cross, the demise of Sister Margaret Ann Paul. In the 5th episode of CSI's 7th season, the team is called to a church where two nuns discover a deceased woman left in a way that mimics a crucifixion. Upon further investigation, they conclude that her death was partly caused by rosary beads.
Who would strangle someone with a rosary?
Probably the same person who would crucify someone in a church.
A priest at the church becomes the prime suspect, though he winds up being innocent. The story mirrors that of Sister Margaret Ann Paul, a Catholic nun who met a similar end in the chapel where she worked, save for the faux crucifixion.
She said there was a murder in the hospital, in the chapel, and I was totally shocked.
26 years later, new scientific evidence plays into the cold case.
The case was solved more than 2 decades later, when new evidence pointed to Gerald Robinson, a priest who worked closely with the victim.
A murder case that took 26 years to go to trial and several weeks to prosecute came down to a matter of seconds in the end.
Thank you. With the jury, will the defendant rise? Find the defendant guilty of murder.
Number 7. After the show, the last photo shoot of Linda Sobek. Linda Sobek was a rising model and actress in Los Angeles whose life came to an unfortunate end on November 16, 1995. That day, Sobek was scheduled for a photo shoot and a TV audition afterwards, but never showed up to the latter.
Anyone that knew Linda knew there's no way she would ever have missed that interview or that audition, and that really was a signal to her parents to start an intensive search.
Investigators got a break when pictures of her and some other documents were discovered, which they traced back to her photographer, Charles Rathbun.
I think Mr. Rathbun had not emotionally matured past probably the age of 18 or 19 years old and was not able to handle rejection by women and acted out those poor feelings in very inappropriate ways.
This Season 4 episode, in which a model goes missing just as her career is about to take off, certainly seems to draw some inspiration from the event. While the episode heavily mirrors the real-life crime, the break in the CSI case comes when the guilty photographer calls the police himself to make a confession.
She's so beautiful.
Soft, sweet, like an angel. I never meant to hurt her.
Number 6, Overload, the Candace Newmaker case. Rebirthing therapy as a cure for attachment disorder has become extremely controversial, and its effectiveness has been disproven, mostly due to the case of Candace Newmaker.
Her whole life ahead of her, and she died tragically in April of 2000 because she was forced to take part in a rebirthing therapy session.
Newmaker, whose adoptive mother sought the help of an unlicensed therapist to treat her behavior, lost her life as the result of the dangerous methods utilized in this practice. The highly publicized incident reminds us of the Season 2 episode Overload, in which a young boy suffers the same fate.
I begged her to do
All
it.
other methods of therapy had failed. Dylan was becoming more belligerent, withdrawn, even dangerous.
I just wanted my son to love me. That's all.
At first, the boy's therapist fails to disclose what exactly transpired, but after an autopsy is carried out, the truth is uncovered. Newmaker's story led to the passing of Candace's Law, which banned the rebirthing technique in the U.S. states of Colorado and North Carolina.
And I encourage all states to outlaw this voodoo science and prevent another tragedy from happening.
Number 5, Shooting Stars, the Heaven's Gate cult.
Las Vegas Crime Lab.
Anyone here?
The 4th episode of CSI's 6th season takes a deep dive into the world of cults and the dangerous psychological effects they can have on their adherents. The investigators have to look into the deaths of those who appear to have been in a cult led by a scam artist.
This cult was about getting laid.
Well, Jim Jones and Charles Manson used sex to manipulate their followers. I'm guessing they were timing their ascension to the Orionid meteor shower last night.
The episode resembles, at least in part, the story of the real-life Heaven's Gate cult, whose members all took their own lives over the course of 3 days in March 1997. Just like the one featured in the CSI episode, Heaven's Gate's theology centered on UFOs and aliens, with both groups timing their deaths so that they would line up with astronomical events.
1997 was the year of the Hale-Bopp comet. In late March of that year, as the comet grew brighter, Doe became convinced the comet was the sign to shed their bodies and exit Earth.
Number 4, Bite Me, the case of Michael and Kathleen Peterson.
I understand you'll want to pump the ratings, but give me a break.
I don't think the DA cares about truth anymore. This has become a show.
The arrest and trials of Michael Peterson for the demise of his wife Kathleen led to the hit docuseries The Staircase. And it later served as the basis for the HBO Max miniseries of the same name. It would also mirror this Season 6 episode, in which a man becomes the prime suspect when his wife dies after seemingly falling down a flight of stairs.
Now, look, I just came from the DA. I gotta tell you, he's already made up his mind. I mean, husband and wife, home alone, all that blood, shaky alibi. Plus, he says he just looks guilty.
Similar to the real-life case, the unfortunate incident unearths tales of infidelity and dark secrets about the couple's past. But as the episode progresses, the show takes a different turn, and we learn that the woman's stepdaughter was behind the crime.
My dad only married Becky because of me.
Explain that to me.
Well, he thought I needed a mom, and that's why he stayed with her.
Blaming yourself for the marriage.
She doesn't seem to blame herself for ending it.
Number 3, Fract, the Hinckley groundwater contamination. In this 2010 installment, the CSIs are called to investigate the suspicious deaths of 2 men who were set to act as sources for an exposé about a natural gas company. The company in question had been contaminating the water of a nearby residential town, leading to multiple illnesses.
I buried my wife. I'm burying my last animal. I ain't got nothing left. Oh, and now you folks from the county finally come down here, accuse me of murder.
This story closely mirrors that of the Pacific Gas and Electric Company, which dumped toxic waste into the groundwater, supplying the town of Hinckley, California over a 14-year period.
People started to fall sick with a variety of illnesses.
Everywhere I was going in this little community, somebody had asthma, recurring bronchitis, unusual joint aches, nosebleeds.
The wrongdoing was brought to light through an investigation carried out by Erin Brockovich. A legal clerk, her work resulted in a historic class action settlement worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
When the case finally settled in 1996, it was the largest lawsuit of its kind in U.S. history, though PG&E admitted to no wrongdoing.
It resulted in a verdict that was record-setting at the time.
Number 2, Blood Drops, the Menendez brothers case. Right from its first season, CSI had been crafting intriguing storylines that closely resembled real-life crimes. The 7th episode features a family of 6 that is almost entirely wiped out by a mysterious perpetrator. Only the 2 daughters are still alive.
When can I be with my sister? She's so scared.
Soon.
What initially looks like the handiwork of a cult eventually unfolds into a bizarre story of severe mistreatment within a family.
Brenda may hate me for what I did. But I protected her. I did that much.
There are quite a few parallels between the CSI case and that of Lyle and Eric Menendez, who were arrested and charged with the murder of their parents. Just like the daughter in this episode, the brothers were alleged to have been pushed to the brink by their parents' indecent actions.
It became like a Rorschach test. You looked at Lyle Menendez, Eric Menendez, you either saw cynical, sinister, vicious killers, or you saw victims.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Gentle, Gentle. What happened to JonBenet Ramsey? Waking up in the middle of the night to find your child missing from the house is every parent's worst nightmare. That's the predicament of Gwen and Steve Anderson, the couple in this season 1 episode whose son Zach goes missing in the dead of night.
I looked in his crib, and he was gone. He wasn't there. And I felt around for him, and that's when I found the letter saying that he had been taken.
While investigating the case, the CSIs find Zach's lifeless body in a nearby golf course and uncover evidence that points them inside the house.
My lawyer warned me that you were going to try this. You don't have a suspect, so now you're gonna come after us.
But you have nothing to hide.
You're damn right we don't!
The episode certainly seems to draw inspiration from the real-life case involving JonBenet Ramsey, who was first reported missing but then discovered hours later in her parents' basement. The case gained international coverage for its sensational details, but sadly, the identity of the individual who masterminded the tragedy remains unknown.
In a statement issued today, the Boulder Police Department says it regularly compares DNA evidence using new technologies in hopes of one day making a match and finding JonBenet's killer.